So we're about 20 games of the regular season. Obviously, people want to talk about the MVP race. And of course, it seems as if like Jokic is semi-running away with it. But people need to really pay attention to what Giannis is doing. Maybe it's even my own fault because I haven't made a video really outlining the historic season that Giannis is on right now and the run that he's having over the last like 7 to 10 games. But Gil Arenas, I know. I probably really beat this dead horse till I can't beat it no more. But Gil and friends are going to talk about the MVP ladder and why exactly is Jokic and Giannis ahead of a couple of other players. I don't know. It always sounds interesting to me when they get to discussing Jokic and Giannis.
Let's take a look at who NBA.com has as their top 5 MVP candidates in their MVP ladder, which they update every weekend. So let's take a look at the most recent, occupying the top spot. Nikola Jokic,
Luka.
averaging 30, 13, and 11.
Now, I don't know when exactly this MVP ladder was put out, and more importantly, where Dallas is at right now in the trajectory they've done over the last like 5 to 7 games, completely turned their season around. To be fair, Luka is still putting up a lot of points, rebounds, and assist numbers, but his shooting splits aren't the greatest, and defensively, it seems like he's just as bad as he was last year, if not worse. A lot of the reason why they've really been able to turn around has a lot to do with Kyrie Irving, not necessarily Luka, but I still feel like it's pretty interesting to see Luka not on this list and AD still fairly high. So I'm assuming this MVP ladder came out before the Lakers started to drop even further and before Dallas Mavericks started to ascend a little bit more. And also, if I'm reading this right, Giannis being that low, this is definitely a slightly a bit older MVP ladder because I do think things probably changed.
Giannis should be one. No, come on, man.
Giannis occupying the 4th spot.
33-12.
He should be
Bucks 8
second.
and 1
He
their
should
last
be
9
second,
games.
maybe.
Second?
Giannis is averaging 33 and 12.
For a team that's supposed to be second in the East right now, and y'all got a 10 and 9 record? No,
Yep.
you exactly where you're supposed to be. If it stays like this, and he's doing the same numbers, and his record stays like this, they're gonna move him out at the end. Because it's gonna be hard to convince the world that his record can make him MVP when you already snubbed Westbrook 2 or 3 times for the same record with the same numbers.
Yep.
Fuck, bro. We about to get back into this Westbrook conversation, bro. I'm gonna just keep it a bean with y'all. I genuinely believe one of the worst things that happened to the MVP award is Westbrook winning it. And that's not a knock on Westbrook rather than the dialogue and conversations we keep having to have that is centered around Westbrook. I'm gonna be honest with you all. Anybody discussing record and Westbrook doesn't make any sense because Westbrook was the first player since what, like Moses Malone back in the day or Kareem back in the 70s that really counteracted the traditional thinking of you have to win a certain amount of games for you to be MVP. Bro, Westbrook won like 45 games and won the award. That's what he did. So this idea that, oh my gosh, Jokic shouldn't win it because Russ got snubbed a bunch of times. Quite literally, Russ was the only player in like 30, 40, 50 fucking years who won the award regardless of his record solely because he put up a 30-point triple-double. So if you all want consistency, why would you not then give it to Jokic, who is now also averaging a 30-point triple-double? You all ask for consistency all the time, and now another player is doing it, and now you're telling me, yo, the record really matters. No, nigga, he averaged a 30-point triple-double. Jokic is now doing it. Why not give it to Jokic? Why not?
So let's talk about Joker a little bit. Averaging 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 11 assists, shooting 56% from the field, 51% from 3, 82% from the free throw line, nearly 38 minutes per game, I think the 3rd most minutes per game. So he's on pace to become just the 3rd player in league history to average a triple-double. But despite Joker's stellar individual play this season, Nuggets are 10 and 8, currently 9th in the West. So Lexi, you brought this up. How much should the Nuggets struggles this season impact Joker in the MVP race?
Yeah, this is actually a slightly older MVP race. Okay, so the more updated MVP race that came out on December 6th, it is December 11th, so another one is going to come out in 2 more days. But Jokic is still number 1. Giannis is now jumped up for number 2, and he was number 4 like we see in the video. Tatum has now dropped to number 3. Shea is now number 4. He used to be number 5. Karl Anthony Towns somehow has cracked the top 5 before even Luka. I think that's a bit of a stretch. I do believe that Shea should be higher than Tatum. I think that Shea is performing better. I do believe that the games in which we're seeing from Shea in the in-season tournament is also probably going to change the perception on him, but Shea has been amazing to start this season. I do think that Shea is also higher than Tatum as well. So I'm not mad at 1 and 2. I think that Shea should be 3 and then Tatum should be 4. I'm pretty sure we're going to get to the conversations of why can't Tatum be in a conversation? Pretty sure that's going to happen in this video, but yeah, I think that the more updated one makes a lot more sense than the one they're referring to right now. But I do want to hear the conversation that they're going to have.
But then, yeah, you can't let someone's team success boost them up either.
You keep changing it. Is these numbers better than what Luka was doing yesterday and the impact Luka was doing last year, where he didn't even sniff 1-2, right, with those numbers, right? So you can't put those numbers up here just because he's averaging a rebound more and an assist more. It's still not equating to winning.
Yeah. Oh my fucking fucking God, bro. Fuck! That is quite literally the argument to why Harden should have won the MVP over Russell Westbrook in 2017. That is literally the argument why. You literally brought up, oh, it's just 1 or 2 more rebounds. Oh, it's just 1 or 2 more assists. I mean, the impact isn't there because of one. That is quite literally the argument to why Russ should have never won it in the first place. So when y'all sit here and say, man, they just changing it for Jokic and Giannis, like, they just sitting there changing it for them. No, the person they changed it for was Russell Westbrook. Secondly, and I say this every single time we make this video, I'm going to continue to say it, bro, the voters are not the same from 2002 and 04 and 05 and oh my God, because Kobe got snubbed and they got to do it for him. No, it's not the same voters. Half of the people who are voting now, they weren't even old enough to be like NBA media members back in the day. So they're not the same voters back then that we have today. So these standards have changed because the people who are voting have changed and the perception and the way that we measure impact has changed. We have metrics that are way more accurate at determining how impactful you are than in contrast back then. Because when I was growing up, the metric that we were using to determine how impactful you were a bunch of what ifs. Hey man, what if player A or player B was healthy or wasn't available? And then we really figure out, hey man, what if player A couldn't shoot threes? It was a bunch of what ifs. Now we know how good a team looks like when a player is on or off the floor, their impact on offense and defense, how they just overall control the team's success and what they're able to contribute to wins. We have a much better understanding of that now than we did back then, so we don't have to play the what if game. We understand that just because you average 10 rebounds and another player averaged 9 rebounds, it doesn't mean that the person who's averaging 10 rebounds is a better rebounder or more impactful in terms of rebounds because we have better ways to measure these things now than we did back then. Utilizing this ideology doesn't make any sense at all. But the argument that Gil is having right now is quite literally the one in which you could argue against Russell Westbrook winning in 2017. It is quite literally the reason why. It is quite literally the argument to why Russell Westbrook didn't win an MVP the following 2 years, even though he still was averaging a triple-double, because you could easily identify the impact that one was having wasn't substantial enough. They were adding talent to the team, and they were only winning like 1 or 2 games more. They effectively had the exact same record, despite the fact that they were adding talent to the team. That's why.
That'd be killing Russ right now. Huh? That'd be killing Russ if he was...
Russ would be at
doing the
5.
triple-double?
Russ would be where...
With those
they'd
shooting
be like
splits,
being
though?
selfish and
I'm saying 56 from the...
They wouldn't be killing Russ because Russ, about 16, 20 games into the regular season when he won an MVP, had the same record, bro. In 2017, December 14th, I'm recording this December 11th, so around the same point. OKC had a record of 15-11. Denver right now has a record of 12-10. If Denver wins 3 of their next 5 games, they will have the exact same record that they did back then. So this idea of like, oh my God, they'd be killing Russ. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. Nobody didn't care at that time because everyone understood the context of why Russ needed to win the award that year because the rest of the roster was not contributing enough to wins. So everyone understood that. So even though Russ finished with the 6th best record in the Western Conference, and to be fair to them, while this video is being recorded, the Nuggets were like 9th, and now they're at 7th. Bro, the difference between where Denver is at in contrast to Milwaukee and the Lakers is they're effectively the exact same record. So that's another reason why people don't really care too much about record because we're talking about splitting hairs between the two. Oh, Milwaukee, they have 5th seed, and Denver, they had a 6th seed. Well, I mean, also they're in a weaker conference. Like, there's much more context. The conversations we're having are way better now than it was back then. That's why.
Joker much more efficient triple-double comparative to what
He's a big man. We get it.
Yeah, but 51 from 3, yeah, that's respectable.
How many threes a game is he taking?
He's shooting like 2, though. Or 1. Yeah.
No, he's not. Fuck. This is like my biggest issue when it comes to like these type of fucking videos. Bro, you gonna sit here and say y'all just changing the narrative to kind of fit your argument when you have a nigga next to you sitting there lying about a nigga's stat line. No, the nigga is attempting 4 threes and making them at a 50+% clip. 4 of them. This idea that, oh, the reason why he's more efficient because he's a big nigga, a lot of his shots are jump shots, face-up game, not him just underneath the basket laying the ball up. I would actually go as far as to argue that majority of Russell Westbrook's shots in 2017, a larger percentage of his shots were at the basket more so than Jokic is this season. Russ was way more at the rim than Jokic was. So this idea of like, oh, that's the reason why is because he's a big. No, nigga, he's just a better offensive player. He's a better scorer. You could take away all of Jokic's layups at the basket, like right underneath the rim, and he would still be more efficient everywhere else on the floor in contrast to Russ. Bro, please shut the fuck up. Stop saying that shit, bro. That shit is just dumb, bro. Y'all niggas is making shit up, but then get upset when other voters, quote unquote, make things up to fit their narrative or their arguments. You're doing the exact same thing.
What you've told all of us is team success is the most important.
Well, they used to say that.
Out loud. But when we look at here, you change it every year, right? You know, when Kobe was taking that sorry team and winning, right? And made it to the playoffs, you snubbed him.
Bro, I need Josiah to be much louder with what he's saying. He's right. It used to be that way. So when you're referencing things that at this point happened 20 years ago, my nigga, that is irrelevant now. If you look at how the voters have voted over the last 5 to 7 years, especially because it's a new crew of voters, and we know it's different because there's years where you have Donovan Mitchell and Utah Jazz at the top of the conference, and he's not receiving any real MVP considerations. You had the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and neither one of them were real candidates for an MVP at all. Jason Tatum is constantly at the top of the conference, and he is never considered to be an MVP candidate, or at least in the top 2 or 3. It is consistently over the past 5 years been Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, sprinkling a little bit of Luka, because we all understand those are the most impactful players. These voters are different. They voted the first unanimous MVP in 2016. They were 1 vote away from giving the finals MVP to a losing player in LeBron in 2015, decided to give Russell Westbrook the MVP in 2017, even though he wasn't even home court advantage in the Western Conference in the playoff standings. So this is clearly a different circumstance and criteria. It's way more predicated on how much you impact the game and your influence on your team success rather than just the overall team success.
If Jokic won this year and you didn't give it to Shea, and Jokic wins and he has a triple-double and his team is worse, you're going to give it to him because you gave it to him for almost having one. Now you have to give it to him for having one.
Gil says the same lie over and over again. The reason why Jokic won the MVP isn't because he almost averaged a triple-double. It's just because he was the most impactful player. That's it. He almost averaged triple-double. That's the reason why. No, the nigga was just more impactful to his team's success than everybody else was. And if he does win it again over Shea, SOL. Tough luck. Who gives a fuck, quite frankly? Bro, there's several players in NBA history who just so happen to peak at moments alongside other all-time great players. Jerry West does not have an MVP. D Wade does not have an MVP. Chris Paul does not have an MVP. There are several players who peaked at really high highs, but were not able to win it because Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain all existed. Bro, there's several all-time great players that just so happen to exist. Tatum and Shea might just be a victim to 3 or 4 all-time dominant players peaking at the same time when Embiid is healthy and playing, but it's just an unfortunate reality of a very talented team. That's really all it is. We don't have to hand out participation MVPs just because we feel like, hey man, you should really win the award. We don't have to do that at all. Clyde Drexler don't have an MVP. Dominique Wilkins does not have an MVP.
I think last year was the first year his team was 50%, right?
What do you mean?
Like a 500 record?
No, they were.
Fuck, bro, I'm gonna lose my mind. A 500. You think they gave Jokic an MVP with a below 500 record? Bro, y'all niggas. Whoa, boy, they on some shit today, boy. They on some shit.
Why do Giannis gotta go to where he's supposed to be and Joker can't go to where he's supposed to be?
That's the problem. He's supposed to be, your team's
Where's
supposed to be the
Joker
best.
supposed to be?
That's what
They're
I'm
supposed
saying.
to be number 1.
They're supposed to be number 1.
Denver?
No, they're not.
All right, bro, I can't, bro. Fuck it, bro. I can't, bro. The niggas is just making shit up. No one thought that the Denver Nuggets were going to be the number 1 seed before the season began. No one thought that. Everyone had OKC with the number 1 record heading into this year. They had the number 1 record last year, and they added Caruso and Hartenstein. Everyone thought that was going to be the case. What the fuck are y'all talking about? Matter of fact, even on this platform, you niggas didn't even have them as a top 4 seed out in the Western Conference. So how the hell now they're supposed to be number 1 seed? Are the Denver Nuggets underperforming? Yes. Do they need to be higher in the standings for Jokic to submit himself as an MVP? Absolutely. But the reason why they're underperforming isn't because of Jokic. It's because Jamal Murray is playing like boo-boo. Aaron Gordon has missed some games, and they're heavily, and I do mean heavily, depending on a bunch of young players that are giving opportunities that are way too premature for them. That's the reason why. It's not because Jokic is playing bad. It's because the players around him, the ball club, is not performing to where they need to be. Not Jokic.
Oh,
Doing
man,
what
watch out.
without Chris Middleton losing?
He doing it without.
Yeah.
Buck
We're about to win the next 17.
Y'all should.
I don't care.
6-game
I don't
winning
care.
They
streak.
don't play nobody.
I don't care.
Like, you look at that schedule, but
Listen,
like,
I don't care.
hell
Hey, I
yeah.
don't care what it is. That's
We going to the
I don't
club.
Care. I don't care.
They looked at that schedule like, oh, we
I
going
don't
out.
care. Average 40. Average 40 during that
Where
time.
they
That's
playing?
my case.
Oh.
Who they play?
That's gonna be my case right
They
here.
gotta be
They
Washington.
They play Washington
Charlotte,
2 times, Charlotte.
Detroit.
They got the Pistons
Yeah, that's
tonight.
50,
that's
50,
Chicago,
50,
2 times.
Probably
They
Brooklyn.
play,
Brooklyn and then
they play Brooklyn. They do
No,
play Brooklyn. They
50.
play the Blazers.
Blazers.
50.
That's crazy because that's literally what's going on right now with the Bucks. They literally are on this weak ass, soft ass part of the schedule. It's part of the reason why I don't want to jump out the window and be like, oh my God, Milwaukee's back. Because like the part of the schedule right now they're going through is like hella weak. But to be fair to them, they're winning games. 4-9 in the middle of November. And a month later, they are 13-11. They've only lost 2 games in the last month. They went through a weak part of their schedule, start ripping off a bunch of wins. And so here we are now.
How impressive Joker been this season, but how concerned should the Nuggets be that he has to play at this level? Like I said, team not, top 7 in the West right now.
When Jordan had a historic year when he had 37 points a game, you're not close to winning the MVP. Same thing when Kobe came back and did it. Everyone on a bad team can put up real good numbers, but before, in the last like 30-some years, you didn't reward individual play. We see every year, there's always some player that is on a bad team that's putting up, what do they call them, empty stats.
Empty stats.
They don't want to call this empty stats when they're losing. It just makes no sense. When we've looked at teams that show dominance, you guys won a championship, you're supposed to come back and dominate. You have the same 4. Like, what is the problem?
2 of the players in that 4 have not been available, one of which is playing like straight dog shit, and the rest of the supporting cast has been bad. It's so ironic he talks about Jordan and winning the MVP and we never rewarded them, when in 1988, the first year that Jordan won his MVP, he went out there, put up crazy numbers, led the league in scoring, I think 35 points per game, but the Bulls only won 50 games that year. How many teams were ahead of the Chicago Bulls, you may be asking? Well, the Boston Celtics won 57, Detroit Pistons won 54, Los Angeles Lakers who won 62, Denver Nuggets who won 54, Dallas Mavericks who won 53, and Portland Trailblazers won 53 as well. The Bulls that year were the 7th best team in the NBA, and yet they still rewarded Michael Jordan. So this idea like, oh my God, it's never happened before. Like, no, my nigga, it's happened several different times. For whatever reason, y'all just ignore it not happening. It was the same thing like when Nick Wright was going around saying, he's the weakest MVP ever. When have we ever given an MVP, 3 MVPs to a player that's never won a championship before? When have we ever done that? Without him knowing that the nigga that he gets on his knees and argues for every single time in LeBron James did that exact same thing. LeBron did that exact same thing. Nick Wright will get on TV and say that LeBron should have won 4 MVPs in a row before he ever won a championship, but then sit there and tell you that Jokic, he can't win one. But then get on his knees for LeBron and be like, ooh, Daddy Bron, LeBron should have got another MVP. The MVP conversation is always interesting to me because I love to just see people just frantically make up reasonings to why you can't give someone the MVP award over someone else based off a very small sample size and very little research and understanding about what the fuck they're talking about, while in the same breath contradict themselves like 2 to 3 minutes later. It's the most interesting and fascinating conversation I've ever seen in the NBA community. But yo, those are my thoughts. Please let me know yours in the comment section below. And until next time, I'll see you all later.